How's it going, guys? So this week on the PhantomCave YouTube channel we're going to be talking about, and it is Saturday, people, so we've got our latest review that's going to come out on Saturday, and we're now going to be talking about The Prisoner of the Golden Cage. And yes, this is another, what you'd call another sort of Sweden publication, and let's get into it. So the issue number is 1903. And the story, as I said, is Prisoner of the Golden Cage. We see right at the start that this story is going to be about the Singh Brotherhood, and there's barely, I would say that there's barely any sort of phantom related content in this story. Like, there's only like a few panels where we've seen the Phantom actually appears, but he doesn't actually have like a soul. He doesn't have like the big storyline that we usually talk about on the channel. So this story that I'm going to be talking about, it's basically about basically about Sandal Singh, which, if you didn't know who Sandal Singh is, she's basically what you'd call the daughter of the late but not great basically emperor of the Singh Brotherhood back in those days. And it's also talking about how Sandal Singh didn't really have a good what you'd call a good sort of relationship with her mother and father. They practically, this story, as I'm going to say, this story, Dudley Hogarth admits, and this Dudley Hogarth says in the publisher notes, if you have not read the publisher notes for this comic, please read the publisher notes, because this story is what you'd call, it's got very unsettling sort of story natures to this story. Now, we see Sandal Singh being taken to this private part of the island that she lives in, and she's going to the old sort of palace where the Singh Brotherhood used to do all their operations. And we're just going through Sandal Singh's childhood, and how her mother and her father weren't that really good to her. So now her mother, late in the story, her mother is, like, we'll say this right now, so if Sandal Singh, they said in this comic, if Sandal Singh was born as a what you'd call son, then it would have been a lot different scenario for her childhood. Now, because she's the daughter of the Singh Brotherhood's leader, the emperor, that then means that the blame actually falls on the mother, and then that eventually the blame on the mother gets taken out on the daughter, which is just, it's what you'd call grimacing into the fact that we've got this young sort of person. She's probably, she's early age. She's eventually won't have a great sort of childhood bringing up, and yeah, and then after like 10-15 pages, we find that the caretaker that actually takes care of her and was actually supporting her through most of her childhood, she actually tries and basically scares Sandal Singh for not going out of the palace, because most of the story is about, firstly, most of the story is about her childhood, and how her childhood, her bringing up on her childhood wasn't that great, and how she would be able to, try and get out of the palace and make, friends to try and escape the torture she was going through. So yeah, I'm going to, at the start of this video, I said it, I think a week or two ago, but in one of the other uploads. But I'm going to, at the start of this video, I've only done it, a couple of times during my talking to the Phantom on YouTube channel. I've only done it a couple of times, and I'm going to put like a, I don't know, a PG sign at the start of it, just because if you've got younger sort of kids, I know not many people of younger generation actually watch these videos, but if you've got a younger generation and say they're going to read this story, and they want to read this story, but they're thinking that this story is actually going to be too unsettling for them, and I'm going to be trying to explain it in a way that the young generation, so they don't then think that because this story is an unsettling story, why should I read it? Why should I not read it? And I'm going to give points on why you should read it, why it's important to the Phantom universe, and if you can potentially firstly make your own decision if you would like to read this or if you don't, basically. So yeah, the Sandal Singh, she gets treated not great. Most of her family from her mother's side actually basically, well, don't really, they get killed most of the time because of the father. Her uncle actually takes upon revenge of Kaiba Singh, I think it is, or is it Dogai Singh or something. So yeah, we've got all that happening. We've got some sort of generational and family war happening. The Phantom, obviously, he steps in, he saves everything. But like I said earlier, the Phantom's is practically not in a single panel in this story. And then we actually see the Phantom, he wraps it all up. He becomes the hero of the story by saving, what would you call it, a unsettling story, and even though we've got this being an unsettling story and this being an unsettling story, but we've got actually 3 artists doing this story from Sweden, so that's pretty cool. I like it somehow sometimes when the Phantom Man stories and the Sweden stories actually have more than one artist. I like how some of the times we see like a refreshing in drawings, we see a refreshing in script, and refreshing in the script. And now we are going to be talking about, so after that, Sandal Singh, she obviously sheds a tear, because the only reason that she's going to be shedding a tear because her mother actually goes and commits suicide during that story, which Sandal Singh actually sees, which is devastating in its own, in fact. So if you've got, like, say, you've got a child that I've just talked about, her childhood wasn't that great, and then her mother just goes and commits suicide, and the father doesn't actually think any of it, and that's not great. It's just not great, and that's why I'm calling it, and that's why Dudley Hogarth called it an unsettling story, and that's why I'm going to be labeling this video as a PG rated video, because all the unsettling circumstances that actually happen in the story actually happen in the story, and because this is just a fictional world, well, we got to take that into factor also. So we got Phantom by Gaslight, Riddle of the Grey Malkin. We see the Phantom, he's been lured. Well, he's basically been what you'd call, so we're at Phantom by Gaslight right now, Riddle of the Grey Malkin, and the Phantom's basically been coaxed into basically the trio that we saw in the last couple of episodes. The woman that's this Paris Green person, she's supposed to be some high person that's supposed to be some high actor in New York, and she takes a rare cub of the grey malkin, and basically the Phantom basically leaves for New York. And what actually happens is that the rare grey malkin cub actually basically gets stolen, and then it's up to the Phantom to basically save everyone's goddamn buttocks, and basically retrieve this grey malkin from what you'd call being trafficked into, I don't know, some sort of smuggling thing that also happens in a lot of Phantom stories. So we've got, if you didn't know about the Phantom board game, I've talked about it a lot on this channel, and if you wanted to buy the Phantom board game, Treasures of Dracon, you can buy it for $135, including postage from Frew Publications or from phantomcomic.com.au, and we'll get talking about the cover. So this week's cover is done by Jeremy McPherson. He's a big supporter of this channel. He's a great person. I've met him a few times at Supernova, and if you would like to subscribe, like, share, comment down below what your favourite story from 2021 has been, and as always, keep Phantom Caving, and we'll see you on Monday.